The night was quiet, almost unnaturally so, as if the world itself was holding its breath. In a small, dimly lit corner of the city, she moved silently, unnoticed by everyone around her. No one knew her name, and few even noticed her presence. She lived in shadows, avoiding attention, blending into the background, and carrying the weight of a life that seemed ordinary, almost invisible. But behind those quiet eyes, there was a spark, a strength she had hidden from the world, a secret that had waited for the right moment to shine. Every day, she walked past golden halls and glittering parties she could never enter, watching from the sidelines as others lived lives she had only dared to dream about. Her hands were calloused, her clothes plain, yet there was an elegance in her movements, a grace that could not be ignored even in the darkest corners. People overlooked her, never suspecting that someone so ordinary could harbor a story so extraordinary. Then came the day that changed everything. A chance encounter, a single word, or perhaps just a look, but it was enough to stir something deep inside her. The life she had hidden from faded slowly, replaced by an unexpected path that promised glamour, influence, and the undeniable aura of royalty. But stepping into that world was not simple. Shadows clung to her, secrets threatened to surface, and every choice carried risk. Could she claim the throne that destiny seemed to whisper about, or would the shadows pull her back, keeping her hidden forever? Tonight, her story begins, not with the life she knew, but with the life she was meant to embrace. And as the first candle flickers in a grand hall she had only dared to imagine, the world waits to see if she will remain in the shadows, or step forward and show her true royalty. The morning sunlight spilled through tall windows, catching dust in golden rays, as she sat quietly by the window of her small room. Her notebook lay open in front of her, pages filled with sketches of grand halls, shimmering gowns, and faces she had never met but somehow felt familiar. She often wondered how a life so far from her own could feel so close, as if it had been waiting for her all along. Growing up, she had learned to stay small, to move through life unnoticed. The world had taught her that dreaming too big was dangerous, that shining too brightly would only bring attention she was never ready to face. Her past was full of small victories that no one celebrated, helping neighbors in silence, excelling at school while keeping her struggles hidden, and learning to read the signs of power and influence from afar. She had always been observant, catching details others missed, understanding people before they even realized it themselves. But those talents had been confined to shadows, hidden behind modesty and circumstance. Then there were the whispers, rumors she had overheard in the city streets, hints of a lineage long forgotten, a family name that carried weight and expectation. At first, she dismissed them as fanciful stories, the kind told to amuse children. But the more she heard, the more the pieces seemed to fit. Her life, the one she had thought was ordinary, might not have been ordinary at all. There were doors she had never opened, paths she had never walked, and a world of power and elegance just beyond reach, waiting for someone brave enough to claim it. And yet, with each revelation came more questions. Who could she trust? How much of this world was real, and how much was danger disguised as opportunity? The shadows that had protected her for so long now whispered warnings, reminding her that stepping into the light could change everything, and not necessarily for the better. Somewhere, the world was watching, waiting to see if she would rise, or if the shadows would claim her again. The city around her buzzed with life, unaware of the quiet storm brewing in her world. As she navigated the narrow streets, her mind raced with possibilities, and dangers. Every corner seemed to hold a secret, every passerby a potential ally or threat. The whispers of her past, the hints of her true lineage, and the glimmers of royalty she had only dreamed about pressed on her constantly. She knew that stepping into this new world wouldn't just be about elegance and grandeur, it would demand courage, cunning, and an understanding of the invisible games that shaped power. Her first real challenge came in the form of unexpected eyes. A stranger, dressed in fine clothing yet moving with careful discretion, seemed to follow her from a distance. She felt a chill run down her spine. Was it coincidence, or had someone noticed the stirrings of her secret? This stranger's presence hinted at a world she had never dared explore, a world filled with people who measured value in influence and opportunity rather than kindness or talent. She sensed that trust would become her most precious, and most dangerous, commodity. At the same time, fragments of her old life tugged at her. Friends she had quietly helped, family she had left behind, and the simple routines that had anchored her now seemed fragile against the tide of ambition and destiny. She wondered if embracing this path meant losing pieces of herself, the parts that had shaped her into the clever, observant, and resilient person she had become. And yet, the promise of stepping fully into her hidden heritage was irresistible, a call louder than the fear that had once kept her small. Every decision she faced seemed to carry unseen consequences. A single misstep could expose her to rivals who would exploit her vulnerability. Every glance from strangers felt loaded with hidden motives. The city itself became a stage of intrigue and suspense, where alliances could shift, secrets could unravel, and the shadows she had relied on might no longer offer protection. With her heart pounding and the unknown pressing close, she realized that claiming her rightful place would demand more than courage, it would demand that she outsmart everyone who underestimated her. Night had fallen over the city, draping every street and alley in a blanket of shadows that mirrored the turmoil in her mind. She moved cautiously, senses sharpened, every sound amplified, the distant echo of footsteps, the rustle of leaves, the faint hum of lights in grand mansions she had once only admired from afar. The world she had glimpsed was closing in on her, and with each passing hour, the stakes grew higher. Allies appeared uncertain, their intentions blurred, while enemies lurked in places she had thought safe. Nothing was as it seemed, and every choice carried weight she could no longer ignore. The stranger who had been following her for days finally revealed themselves in a quiet courtyard, face half hidden in the dim glow of a lantern. Their words were careful, almost teasing, suggesting knowledge of her heritage and hinting at doors that could open, or her pulse quickened as she realized that revealing even a fragment of her hidden power could change everything in an instant. Meanwhile, the shadows of her past began to encroach. Rumors of her lineage spread quietly through elite circles, stirring envy, suspicion, and fear. Some whispered of betrayal, others of ambition, but all sensed that she was no longer just a girl in the background. She felt the weight of invisible eyes watching her, measuring her every step, waiting for her to falter. Even her closest confidants carried questions she could not yet answer, and the line between friend and foe blurred with every passing moment. As she prepared to step into a grand hall she had only imagined in her dreams, tension coiled around her like a living thing. The air seemed electric, every shadow a possible threat, every whisper a warning. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next move. With her heart pounding and courage stretched to its limits, she knew that one moment would define everything, the choice to claim the light she had always feared, and the power that could either elevate her to royalty or consume her entirely. Just as she stepped through the grand doors, the warmth of the chandelier-lit hall seemed to mock the chill creeping up her spine. The room was filled with faces she didn't recognize, powerful figures who whispered in low tones, their eyes flicking toward her with curiosity and caution. Every step she took echoed, a reminder that she was no longer invisible. She felt the weight of expectation pressing down, the invisible strings of destiny tightening around her. Then came the twist she hadn't anticipated. From the far end of the hall, someone stepped forward, someone she had trusted completely, someone who had guided her through the maze of shadows. "I never expected you to come this far," they said, voice smooth yet laced with tension. The words sent a shiver through her. Was this betrayal, or a test of loyalty she hadn't been warned about? The moment of triumph she had imagined suddenly fractured into uncertainty, and the hall seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Simultaneously, murmurs began to rise around her, subtle but unmistakable, rumors of a rival faction seeking the same position she had only just discovered. They had been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike, and now the timing couldn't have been worse. Every face held a question, every glance a hidden motive. The promise of royalty, the allure of power, suddenly carried a dangerous weight, threatening not only her dreams but her very safety. Caught between the unexpected betrayal and looming threats, she realized that every decision from this point forward could change her life forever. Shadows of doubt intertwined with glimpses of destiny, leaving her heart racing. Could she trust anyone in this glittering, dangerous world? Or would stepping into the light expose her to dangers she had never imagined, testing her courage, cunning, and the strength she had hidden for so long? The night was alive with tension, and the moment to act was closer than ever, but the outcome remained unknown. The hall fell silent as she stepped forward, her pulse hammering in her ears. Every eye was on her, every whisper fading into a tense stillness. She could feel the weight of generations pressing down on her, the expectations of royalty, and the shadows that had defined her life. But before she could respond, a rival faction made their move, stepping forward to challenge her claim. The hall erupted in tension, alliances shifting in real time, every moment a test of her instincts. For the first time, she didn't hesitate. Drawing on the intelligence, observation, and courage she had honed in the shadows, she spoke with authority, revealing secrets no one else had known and exposing hidden motives with a precision that stunned the room. One by one, the rival voices fell silent. The whispers of doubt were replaced by a murmur of respect, and the air seemed to shift as she asserted her rightful place. She had stepped from shadows into light, claiming not just recognition, but power, true royalty. And yet, just as the room began to accept her, a subtle sound made her pause. A hidden door at the far end of the hall creaked open. From the darkness emerged a figure she had never seen, eyes glinting with secrets that promised the story was far from over. In that moment, she realized that claiming her place was only the beginning. The world she had entered held even deeper mysteries, greater dangers, and unexpected allies, or enemies, waiting in the wings. The throne was hers for now, but the game had just become infinitely more complicated. Shadows and light, trust and betrayal, power and danger, they were all part of a story that was far from finished. And she knew, with a surge of adrenaline and excitement, that her true journey was only beginning. The following days felt like a dream and a trial all at once. She walked through the halls she had once only imagined, the weight of her newfound status pressing down yet filling her with the rival faction that had tried to challenge her gradually retreated, realizing that she was not someone easily intimidated or outmaneuvered. Even those who had betrayed her learned that their attempts could not overshadow the truth she carried in her heart. She was capable, resilient, and ready to step fully into her destiny. In quiet moments, she reflected on the girl she had once been, the one who lived in shadows and feared notice. That girl had not disappeared, she had grown stronger, sharper, and more certain, learning that courage could be born from the darkest corners. Amid the celebrations and newfound recognition, she never forgot the lessons of the shadows, the importance of humility, careful observation, and the patience to wait for the right moment. Friends she had made in the early days remained close, their loyalty and support a reminder that even in a world of power, genuine connection mattered most. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that the challenges ahead would be different but no less significant. Standing on a balcony overlooking the city, snow beginning to fall gently, she felt a quiet satisfaction. She had claimed her place, shown her royalty, and proved to the world, and herself, that strength often comes from unexpected places. And while new mysteries and opportunities awaited, she now knew that the girl who once lived in shadows would never be hidden again. The journey had changed her forever, and the story of her rise would inspire anyone who had ever doubted their own power to step into the light.